Good afternoon. Today we have a very timely topic about AI and how to accelerate AI in your team. And I have with me a special guest, Bhavesh Mehta. He's an EM at Uber. I used to work at Uber. So, Bhavesh, welcome to Managers Club.
Thank you, Vedal. Happy to be here and very timely topic indeed. Happy to talk about my experiences through it.
Awesome. I think it's going to be very interesting for people. So let's just start out simple. I know you wrote this article about how to accelerate AI in your teams. And so, what has been your approach to accelerating AI in your teams?
Yeah, so, very great question. I'll start with something Sundar Pichai actually said in 60 Minutes. He said, AI is going to impact every product at every company. And what that means is, of course, startups are used to this. They will build a product that is barely complete, MVP, put it out there in the front of the customers, gain feedback and iterate it quickly until they achieve PMF, product market fit. As the companies grow and mature into it, their ability to take risk reduces. And over time, they start delivering more and more incremental products, which, of course, are tremendously beneficial. But AI has put a monkey wrench into the situation where all the big companies, all the organizations, all the teams are now startups. What that means, you don't necessarily know what exactly is going to jive with your customers. So you put it out there, iterate, improve, and very much go through the startup journey all over again.
Okay. Yeah. That episode on 60 Minutes. Yeah, that was a very good one. I'll put a link to that for people. So, but let me ask you before the 60 Minutes episode, uh, could you describe what was like a pivotal moment when you realized the immense potential this had for you and your team at work?
Okay, good question. Let me share a very personal story. I have been a very early adopter of ChatGPT. I think I started using it on day 2, and pretty much using some of the other language models ever since. As part of my holiday project, I took up a challenge of creating a rap song. As a leader, I'm always trying to find innovative ways to connect with the team, inspire, set vision, etc. So I thought, hey, why not challenge myself in something that I've never done before? And I created a rap song about what my org is, what is our purpose, what do we do, why do we do what we do, and how we go about doing it. And having never written a song, let alone a rap song before, um, and although I had to edit the content that came out of ChatGPT heavily, I was very very impressed with the final outcome. And if we have time, I would like to read for the audience a couple of verses.
I'd love to hear. This is the first time anyone's ever performed a rap or a song or anything on Managers Club. So I'd love to hear the your engineering manager rap. Go for it.
So a little bit of context. So I lead the customer obsession organization at Uber. We develop a lot of customer support tech. So this is about that particular job function. Here we go. We are here to make sure every contact is handled with precision. Let AI and automation take care of every decision. So our customers, partners, and agents have satisfaction and have the security to trust our reliability and action. We'll use bots to help converse with the customer's needs and provide them with personalized care at lightning speed. Our tech and agents will work together in tandem to help ensure we are always taking the best course of action.
Awesome. Bravo. I think that's very, very good. What music did you play it to?
The second part of the creative endeavor, which I never got around to it, was actually creating original rap music to go along with it. And there are a lot of AI tools out there to help you craft the music to the song that you've written. And what I just read aloud was just a couple of verses. It has an intro, it has an outro, and a total of 4 verses that gets into detail, a lot more specific detail about tools and technologies that my team uses that are viewed right into the rap song.
I think that's very cool. Um, so a lot of people are excited about AI, but a lot of people also like, maybe there's a lot of hype and all that. So what have you seen, in your use of it, maybe where some of the limitations are, and how do you communicate these limitations and expectations to your stakeholders?
Uh, Good question. Machine learning and in general AI is highly probabilistic in nature. And if you rewind just a couple of years ago, we still had great natural language processing models from Google, say BERT, and their objective was to predict the next word or next set of words. And it did work in probabilistic fashion, meaning given the same sort of inputs every time, same sort of outputs are not guaranteed. And with the arrival of ChatGPT and the new age LLMs, with prompts, you can get to the outcome that you want, but there's always going to be variance in what you expect. And that's not as much surprise to the ML practitioner, but it's a huge surprise to especially senior stakeholders who are used to seeing predictable outcomes from the underlying technology model. So that's, I think, number one challenge. Then number two, I think it goes back to the history of AI. In almost 60 plus years of history of AI, it has always been oversold. It had promised wonders and moons and end of poverty and whatnot ever since 60s, and every new breakthrough just double down on that promise. I want to suggest that even with the latest innovation that we are seeing, it is considerably significant step change in what artificial intelligence is able to achieve, but it's um, far from solving anything and everything perfectly for you. And this background of continuous and long history of hype has made it quite challenging for to set appropriate expectation with wide variety of stakeholders. And finally, when it comes to this phase, it's very much work in progress. In fact, I'm willing to bet that if OpenAI did not release ChatGPT at the time they did, Google and other companies would have spent time maturing, making it more secure, safe, responsible, more practical before before releasing it out in the wild. What we are witnessing right now is the very public experimentation across all dimensions, models, infrastructure, and as a result, innovation does seem very fast, but it is taking a scenic route. So, combination of these challenges requires somewhat continuous communication to the stakeholders and explaining to them on regular basis nuances, setbacks, and the feedback that we are getting from the products that we are releasing in the field.
There's a lot of really good points you made there. I think one of the challenges in software engineering, right, is these are APIs that non-deterministic, right? So how do you write tests against outputs that could change? And um, yeah, your other point, I agree. Everyone feels that, right? Like Sam Altman also said, like we just released it early. Better to release it early and learn now than yeah. If we'd waited for Google or someone, who knows how long we would be waiting. So we are seeing. I like the way you put it, the scenic route through here. Um, so let me ask you, you manage developers. So I used to work in developer productivity at LinkedIn, and I'm very into developer productivity. So what tools, like, for example, Copilot or frameworks or platforms, have you found helpful in accelerating your team's productivity?
Okay. Let me answer it in sort of a couple of ways. First, I do believe that the new generation of AI has made it easy to tap into the immense power of that AI offers. However, to build a product that scales at the scale of LinkedIn, at the scale of Uber, requires a lot more than just models. Of course, you want to have access to the best in class AI and ML technologies, but you also want to have best in class platforms, Michelangelo, which is the ML platform from Uber. We also have an experimentation platform. We have several other platforms that allow us to plug in a lot of these models in seamless way, in a configurable way, to scale the product and experiences that we launch to millions of our users. Not to ignore the fact that new infrastructure pieces are developing at rapid speed as well. And your existing technology infrastructure has to be extensible enough to take advantage of those. For example, LangChain or Llama Index, ability to plug in various data sources to make your AI products truly, truly powerful. GitHub Copilot, I'll tell you, I always thought programming has been long considered a very human endeavor. The fact that you're able to translate the castles in your mind into a product that customers actually use, yeah, and that was just phenomenal. However, Git Copilot certainly demonstrates a promise of what's possible today. Today, in my opinion, it's a glorified autocomplete and maybe even autocomplete on steroids. But I was at Google Next earlier this week, and I was able to speak to their team. They have grand plans in this area. They are gonna significantly disrupt the entire development workflow, right from how do you translate, let's say, a product requirement into an epic, to code reviews, to production. I think what they are after is what I just mentioned before. How do you minimize the gap between idea in developer's mind to the customers actually using it? And various companies I've spoken to, they've seen anywhere from 5 to 25% productivity boost based on the current implementation of Git Copilot already. And of course, the mileage varies depending on whether you are writing brand new piece of code versus maturing an existing complex code base. But I think future is very bright in this area.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It also varies also based on the language. Like I think it's better at certain languages and things. But so talking about this, getting from idea to the final product, where the idea can start with the product manager, a lot of different people. How has or has it yet AI changed how you work with product managers to engineers? Maybe now you need to bring in data scientists. I don't know. How's this changed life for you?
I think it is beginning to change. Like you mentioned initially, I think depending on whether you follow waterfall or agile, the ideas, business ideas typically flew from the business stakeholders, product managers, to engineers, where engineers would work on it. At this time, I'm already seeing very interdisciplinary thinking. Ideas are flowing from everywhere. Every person, whether you are engineer or a data scientist or a product manager, they have better understanding of each other's discipline just through collaborating very intimately along these ideas. I've seen prompts being written by operations people, by product manager, by data scientists. Of course, our engineers are looking into new prompt frameworks and applying to the use cases how that can happen. I think what it's also leading to, it's very iterative and inclusive decision making, as opposed to maybe what we might now consider traditionally siloed. And that's also, I think, is a great feat because it has really brought people from different disciplines together. A couple of novel trends that I'm seeing, uh, and this is more, I think, more applicable to more consumer-facing companies. There is increased focus on ethics and bias. Just because AI allows you to do something, should you do something? And are people even trained to think what are some of the ethical implications? And I'm sure LinkedIn, Uber, we all of us have a lot of privacy and security considerations. Uh, Large language models opens up novel vectors for security breach, and people have just start thinking about what do they even mean. There is a notion of jailbreaking prompts, and how do you protect yourselves against a bot which pretends as a human, it's not very obvious to catch signatures of those attacks yet. So a lot of old problems resurfaced, a lot of new thinking in new sort of stakeholders, and a lot of people from different discipline getting together and truly be each other's partner in problem solving here.
Okay, now I think that's a great point. Yes, there's new attack vectors, right? There's prompt injections, and then there's questions of, where's this data going and who's training on it and how's it being used, right? A lot of big organizations are very concerned about that. Um, I want to go back to your article. Like you have this great newsletter, 10xmanager.com. I love the 10x idea, and I'll link it in the notes. But in your article, you talked about training. You emphasized learning by doing approach, and that you did hackathons and prototype projects and things like that. So, what were the key learnings that you had in doing this with your team?
Yeah. So before I get to learning, let me talk about what I'm seeing at Uber and largely at industry. What are the type of learning by doing or hackathons are happening? I think again, thanks to ChatGPT, the conversation has become sort of a de facto interface to interact with the language models, and I see uh, chatbot applications coming across many different industries. Customer service, one of the most obvious, but HR, marketing, developer community, to name a few. Just for context, developing a chatbot traditionally has been a very specialized skill set. Uh, you needed expertise over a range of technologies, backend, cloud, telephony, NLP, a very detailed understanding of your persona or the use case. And when you combine it all together, you need to have a list of intents that you train your NLP model against. And it took months to release a chatbot. And I can tell you that um, just within a couple of hours of prompt engineering, today you can get to 80% of what that complex chatbot could do with a with highly specialized set of skills. The last 20% is very hard fit. I don't want to oversell this, but we have come quite far. And and I think there is certain, as my colleagues puts it, never-ending charm of LLMs that has attracted the engineers. So they are out there to automate the heck out of any repetitive task that they are part of. Starting from code review, summarization of key engineering artifacts, design, what have you, and that's basically eliminating all the tedious work from their day job so that they can just focus on dreaming up bold new ideas and translating them to production code. Uh, Learnings. Um, I'm gonna go out and say prompt engineering has turned out to be a big lie. I'm intentionally sounding very provocative because it does have immense power, and it is gonna solve a lot of your use cases as is, but it can also completely botch um, use cases where predictability, consistency, and rigor to sticking to some sort, adhering to some sort of policy is required. And that is why if you see across the industry, most of the use cases people are going after have human in the loop, either as a light touch or a heavy touch mechanism. So, if you want to make a draft of your design, you can, provide prompts and it will give you a draft. It's 80% there. The remaining 20% can take significant time out of your schedule to get it just quite right. So again, this may be, I guess, oversimplification or buying into that initial hype. And we are seeing a lot of revision into prompt engineering approaches as well that make it a lot more and more effective.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just at a presentation earlier today about prompt engineering and just some really off the wall things people are doing. But yet there are people who think that in the future they won't need prompt engineering because the model will just understand everything, which would be very amazing. Um, Let me ask. So we've talked about using it in this domain and that domain, and how great it is, and all this. Have you encountered any resistance, maybe in certain applications where you and your team wanted to use it, and you got no, can't use it there. Have you encountered anything like that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, wherever you have uh, um, whenever you are asking the prompts or models to follow conditional reasoning, it's able to do that actually surprisingly well, but not 100%. And that's where you have to go back and see for yourself whether your use case allows for that kind of tolerance. For example, and even today, we at Uber we have chatbots in production. You can, if your order is running late, for example, you can talk to the chatbot and say, "Hey, my order is running late. I would like some sort of refund or appeasement because of this delay." Today, we trust the bot fully to take that action. Uh, Again, we go through a lot of our policies to be able to make the right determination. And if you think about it, it's a lot of if then else kind of statements. Uh, Large language models today don't have sufficient rigor to stick to what code or humans could stick to. And so we can't trust order actions or financial actions to be taken by LLMs just yet. And that's why, again, if you see in industry the kind of chatbots that are being released, they are more informational and like, here is an advice. It may not be 100% accurate. There is an opportunity for you to validate, as opposed to the true north star of AI is not that you help me do the stuff, you do my work for me. And imagine, you talking to a travel chatbot and say, here is my schedule, here is my budget, just book stuff for me. Don't tell me, here are the flights I need to book, here are the hotels I need to book. I want you to fully own it. We are not quite there.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, people don't trust it, that last piece, because people don't really understand how it works, right? And it's not 100% deterministic. So in that case, you're saying better you have like if then else statements for some applications, because at least people understand what it's doing. Um, has there been any place where AI has surprised you, like in a positive way or in a creative way, where you started using it, you're like, wow, this has even exceeded my expectation?
Yeah, I mean, earlier we talked about AI's ability to, do some creative art, rap song. I think that was a very surprising moment for me. Uh, and I think we talked about coding as well. I mean, I was not as much surprised that AI was able to write code. Um, what I was surprised at was, um, and I consider myself a pretty seasoned software engineer. I do write a lot of code. The way AI approached the code was so efficient to begin with, or optimized to begin with. It didn't need any sort of iteration that typically I've seen engineers go through, either through their own iteration or through review feedback. It's already starting at a very high level, especially when you are trying to create something from scratch. So ability to address this complex coding challenge and coming up with the most efficient solution in the first go was a pretty eye-opening moment for me.
Pretty amazing. Like it can do, like you can just things that human beings can't do. Like you can ask it to write a piece of code. You can pick almost any language, and it'll immediately start writing it. Where a human being would be like, I got to look up the documentation, how to use that API. It just will start immediately.
Let me give an example there. In my college days, I had written this program. I called it Hippie, High Precision Pi. So I had downloaded, or I had read up an algorithm written by a mathematician to compute infinite precision of pi. And just to challenge myself at that time, I had coded it in assembly language. And I thought, okay, while I can imagine, AI being able to write C program or a Go program or Python program, I asked it to write it in assembly, and it was able to generate assembly. It wrote the entire program in assembly with comments referring back to the algorithm that I had used.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? Like, and yeah, the creative stuff like the songs, the poetry, it can do just insane things. Um, some things it can do way better than people. Um, so let's see. Let's talk a little bit about strategy and the future. Okay, so I mean, you're an engineering leader, and part of engineering leader's job is to, define strategy, vision of things. So we talked a little about, how it's changing things now, but talk to me a little bit about how you see the future of it and what should be some of the strategies that people should take.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we are on a firm path to democratize the software development process. I think the CEO of NVIDIA said in one of the conferences recently that this is true democratization moment for software engineering. There has always been a push for more and more people to get exposed to some sort of education in programming, but I think this makes it not just um, uh, necessary, but also extremely easy. So we are going to see a lot more participation in this field for sure. All the organizations, I think that they're going to transform into AI first organizations. And let me explain what I mean by that. 15, 20 years ago, with the arrival of iPhone, we had a lot of companies change their strategy to become mobile first. We had seen TurboTax. Now you are able to file your tax just from your using your iPhone, and uh, every single software organization that I'm talking to, they are asking themselves, not can we use, how can we augment our existing solutions using AI, but if AI technologies were at our disposal, how would we completely redefine our product portfolio? And that's a very scary thing, because that's a transformative change that is happening in the company, not an incremental product development, but hey, do we have the right talent set? Are we training people in the right way? Are people thinking in the right direction? Do we have processes that allow us to, let's say, understand output of AI and iterate over it so that we are able to continuously improve our product. As you know, AI products are not one and done. After you release is when the real sort of learning starts, in a way of reinforcement learning through human feedback. And have you trained your large corpus of people, engineers or otherwise, to be sensitive to this and to understand what it takes to truly excel? I think we are going to see massive productivity boost in every single area in the analyst field. Instead of writing very complex SQL queries, now you are going to be able to translate. I think Google released text to SQL or something, English language into SQL queries that can do very interesting complex joins for you and give you the exact data you want. And finally, and I hate to draw this parallel, but just a few years ago, blockchain and the crypto was big thing, uh, and uh, and and the regulations and the policies were starting to take place. I don't think we have truly shaken that out yet. I think AI is going to also experience a lot of policy regulation in a good way, to focus on data privacy. How do you eliminate bias? How do you how do you provide some transparency? A lot of people, when they are surprised today about the output of AI, they don't fully understand. In fact, not all experts are able to explain why the model does what it does. There is a paper from Google by Jeff Dean about emergent properties of AI, and the best of the best, they don't quite, they are not able to explain. And to me, that's just begging for some sort of oversight. And I think it's good that with White House and a lot of companies, we are collaborating to figure out what those right set of guardrails mean. But I'm very excited about the future.
Yeah, let me follow up on a couple of things you said. One, I think you made a very good analogy to mobile first, because I remember that everybody wanted to be mobile first, right? It became a big buzzword. And I don't want to give any names, but I've actually talked with a bunch of people who are kind of panicked that they actually want to apply AI in their product and organization, even if it doesn't make sense sometimes, right? So as an engineering leader, like, what do you do in that case when if people are coming to you running around just like, hey, we should just put AI in there, we've got to have some AI.
Yeah. No, good question. I have seen the other spectrum as well. There is panic, but there is also very much top-down mandate saying, hey, just figure out a way to use AI somehow to
Yeah,
stay relevant or whatnot.
right.
And I think it's very important. It's almost very tempting to try to do too much at once. But I think we have to be very systematic about where AI could really add value. Do crunch some numbers, figure out where the business pain points are, and then try to map the power of AI to address those use cases. If you are in customer service, if there is a specific area where you are unable to crack the customer satisfaction, maybe that's an area. If you are in marketing, if you are seeing lack of conversion, maybe AI could help you there. But if you go about trying to do everything all at once, you may actually do yourself major disservice. And model is just one part of it. The companies who are going to win, in my opinion, are the companies who already have access to a ton of great data. Garbage in, garbage out is painfully true in the realm of AI. And if you have access to a golden data set, then you are in the best position to make most out of what models have to offer.
Having the data, right? That becomes the thing, right? Do you have your own data? Um,
Correct. And we talked about data, we talked about models, but you also need to have platform and infrastructure to leverage all of this at scale. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to invent all of this thing in your in-house. There are a lot of great startups. In fact, there's a lot of funding in this area that can help you leverage latest tools, LangChain, Llama Index, vector databases, what have you. And get that specific stakeholder buy-in. Put your hypothesis there, just like how you might pitch to an investor. This is the problem I want to solve. This is why I'm solving it. This is why I'm solving it right now. This is why AI is the best sort of technology to go about it, and this is how we are going to measure our success. And put continuous monitoring in place. Lot of your hypotheses are likely going to turn out wrong, just like a lot of the VC investments, they fail. But that's the only way we are going to separate noise from signal at this point.
okay. I want to go back to another thing you said. You gave this example of someone text to SQL, right? So if that comes to pass, maybe you don't need to know how to write SQL so much. I have a friend. He's very into software engineering, but he's kind of told his kids, do you even need to learn these programming languages in much detail because the thing can write the code? So let me ask you, you're a software engineering manager, you manage engineers. What would be your advice to people? What skills should software engineers learn or have, you think, in the next couple years? Because maybe, for example, writing SQL might not be one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say you have to have foundational understanding of AI and ML. And you talked about how you are automatically able to write SQL or code, but as your use case becomes more complex, more precise, you will need to master the ability to leverage, fine tune, and update the AI models also a lot more effectively, certainly more effectively than, let's say, your competition. uh, Data literacy is a big part as well. A lot of software engineers who don't have background in, let's say, data science or statistics or machine learning, they are unaware of data cleaning process and effective communication using data-driven insights. I think that's going to become very, very important. I think that if I were to highlight one skill, and that's really the adaptability, and it's not a hard skill; it's a soft skill. AI, as you know, is evolving at lightning space. If 24 hours goes by and there is no announcement on social media, people are claiming AI has entered winter, and I think adaptability is going to be uh, the most important skill. You can ask me, you can ask others. We can have our views about what the future may look like. We all might be wrong, and I certainly don't claim to foresee the future as precisely as many of the other visionaries in the field. But if you are adaptable, if a new framework comes out, new set of technologies come out, new infrastructure comes out, and you are able to roll up your sleeve and say, hey, you know what, let me, this was the previous way of doing my job. This is how I'm going to be more effective, more productive, more valuable to my company. That's going to keep you, first of all, keep your technical chops at the forefront of the technology, and also keep you valuable in the job market.
I think it's good. Yeah, adaptability. You have to adapt a lot in the next couple of years because a lot of things are going to change clearly. So I'll ask you another question about the future. So a lot of people are concerned about the future of, for example, developer jobs, right? Will AI, automate a lot of coding? Will we need more developers, less developers, things like that? I'm not going to ask you that question. I want to ask you is what do you think some of the impact of AI for engineering managers? Okay, how do you think the engineering manager job will change in the future?
Yeah. So, that's a really good question. I think uh, managers should also look at AI not necessarily to replace the engineers they have, but sort of as a tool that they can aid their engineers with, so that a bunch of the repetitive tasks are out of the way. I think this real, and now imagine if all your engineers' repetitive, mundane tasks are out of their schedule, they just have a lot more bandwidth available to do a higher degree, a higher level of stuff. So more strategic involvement by engineering manager across peers, across organizations, to and by very much in partnership with software engineers to get to the strategic big picture decisions about software design, utility, and alignment with business goals. Engineering management is always to me, a very fascinating field because it combines the people aspect, it combines the technology aspect, and combines the process aspect. If anything, I feel that the focus on soft skill in AI dominant workplace is going to be even more important, like communication, teamwork, problem solving. Assume you are always you have at your disposal 10x coder and an army of 10x coders. How what is going to be a differentiator compared to your competition? It is going to be not that one person can do 10x programming, but my team is going to be superior to yours or your competition, and that we are effective in choosing the set of problems that we want to go after. And that doesn't happen in isolation. It does require communication, it does require collaboration, it does require adaptability, transparency, some of the things we talked about earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. Um, it's possible since you talk about having 10x programmers, right? The engineering manager job could become even more busy. For example, like if all your team was 10x programmers, if they could all do 10 times as much, they'd have a lot more output. So then what would you do, right? You'd have a lot more potentially projects to manage, think requirements to deal with. Like it actually could become a lot busier in that scenario.
Yeah, and I'm thinking just like how engineers are aided by AI tools to increase their productivity. Managers can also be aided by AI tools to manage their time more effectively as well. Maybe the scrums can be on autopilot, and you are getting continuous reports, insights into where sort of hotspots lie with respect to development or risk or bugs or incidents, as opposed to a lot of processes and reviews that require highly manual intervention. There are a lot of AI tools out there, for example, who can attend meeting on your behalf and bring you back notes and AIs, and that frees up a lot of your time. I don't know if you have used it, and if you have found it effective. But those are there are a lot of darts in the air right now. I know many of them are going to land, and I think it's important to maintain optimism. I do believe that the change is going to be somewhat rough, unexpected, in positive ways for many people. But all change is hard, and I think we have to brace for impact.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned saying the bot to the meeting for you. Imagine engineering managers go to a lot of meetings. Imagine if the meeting is mainly all bots. Everybody just sends a bot to the meeting, and they don't go themselves. Just say, "Hey, bot, go over there, and just I need you to go figure this out, or go talk to this other bot." So it could actually be totally crazy, right? You're at a stand up meeting, and imagine all the stories are just flying to the right, 10 times faster than normal, right? That'd be kind of crazy. I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be one future which would be like very intense.
Yeah, here is another thought, and there's something I read on Twitter the other day. I think we are not that far away from seeing a unicorn that has just three people: the salesperson, the marketing person, and the programming person. So I think the reason that tweet caught my eye was certainly it sounds very fanciful, but it also sounds somewhat realistic based on how we are making progress. And the other way to look at it is maybe to achieve a level of complexity, level of customer base, you did require really massive teams. Maybe we are moving towards small and much more nimbler teams in future.
Uh, I believe that. I think this is a great time. I think if you are an entrepreneur or have a small company, this is what I've kind of gone back into entrepreneurship right now, is with a very small group or even just by yourself, you can do what would have required a big team in the past. It's crazy what one person or two or three people can do. So it's a lot of opportunity there. Um, yeah, to produce something. Um, so it's really an exciting time. Um, well, Bhavesh, you've been like super generous with your time. I actually want to ask you one more question. If you could leave the software engineers and the managers who listen to Managers Club with one closing thought or piece of wisdom about this AI acceleration of their teams, what would it be?
So I think we talked about sort of preparing your teams to adapt and innovate in this AI-powered ecosystem, and how continuous learning is gonna be key to staying relevant. My question to you is, how are you gonna transform your organization into an AI-first organization?
That's great. Yes, an AI first organization, just like mobile first that you mentioned before. All right. Well, again, Bhavesh, you've been super generous with your time. It's great to talk with you. I think you've left a lot of really interesting thoughts for people. If someone wanted to reach out to you later, connect, follow up, what would be the best way to reach you?
Please, reach out to me over LinkedIn. I'm always looking to make new great connections and happy to chat and collaborate on the topic of management. Definitely on the topic of AI. Happy to connect and chat.
That's great. I'll put a link there and also to your management newsletter, 10x Manager, which we have to talk about much, but I'm very impressed with you. You were like on a challenge, right? Did you say like you're trying to you write like an article every week?
No, so I've made a personal commitment to write 2 articles a month, and it's not always two. Sometimes it's one, and then I try to catch up to three. It's a more than anything else, it's a personal challenge. What I learned there was writing is sort of a meditation for me, and even on the topics that I think I have clarity about, after I write, I have 10x clarity for myself. So it's been a great journey. So thanks for reading.
We'll do. Well, let me ask you another question. It's about AI, right? Do you use Chat GPT to help you write the articles?
Yeah, so I use ChatGPT. I have started using ChatGPT to summarize my articles. So all the summaries that you see at the end, they are first drafted by ChatGPT, and then I edit it. The content, I think it's a blend of my management philosophy and the personal experiences. I haven't quite found to train GPT into my persona, so we are we are far away from that. So a lot of that is original, but I do tap into the summarization feature of ChatGPT.
Okay, that's great. Again, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been great to have you. Great to talk with you.